Sometimes I'm starting to wonder if I'm in the right business. Guests are driving me nuts at the moment. They
I
really
wondered what you
are.
were going to say about that. Yeah, yeah. And it has an impact on us, doesn't it? Because we both kind of approach it in a different way.
Which is good because I think,
Yeah, we
yeah, I
do.
think we bounce off each other quite well. Um, but I don't think it's ever been harder to be in hospitality. I don't think you've ever had to have gritted teeth quite so often.
I think it's because I genuinely think there is an element of people using AI for this and seeing what they can get for nothing. So they chuck it in ChatGPT and say, "Oh, I didn't have a tea towel. Oh, the oven was a bit dirty. What email, WhatsApp can I send to the host to get the most out of this?"
Spoiler alert. Yeah, so we're going to go through all of that later. But you're
Sorry.
right. No, you're right. It's just such entitled attitudes. That's what
Yeah.
gets me. And I think we're pretty good. Like we say, we bounce off each other. You're quite good at getting me to take a breath and sit on it for a while, and I'm quite good at sort of, I guess, putting a professional gloss when you've lost your temper with somebody. But it's getting more challenging, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
that the attitude of getting it just, I think what I find difficult is I can't imagine ever conducting myself like that
I,
myself when you go
no,
and stay somewhere.
when I stay somewhere, I am always aware that someone's probably put heart and soul into this. Uh, they've given it, it's their business.
Yeah,
They want it to run. So any feedback we will always give privately, won't we?
yeah. Anyway, you can tell we've been dealing with some guest issues over the last week, and we'll cover those as we get deeper into the podcast. But we've also been covering a huge amount of mileage, haven't we? What
Uh,
did you work out we've done in the last 24 hours alone?
600
Over
miles.
600 miles. So we went from Sussex, where we are sat now, down on the south coast, up to Shrewsbury. Unfortunately, we had to attend a funeral, and immediately turned that around and headed back down. So that was what must have been 5 hours, I
Oh,
think, four and
it
a half,
was a
5 hours.
horrendous journey.
Then left there to go down to Yeovil for an annual insurance inspection down at Eaton House.
Which hours? And I just want to shout out to Zoe here because she was there a lot and the gardener, because she was there a lot this
Mm.
week, just making sure everything was tickety boo and lovely for the inspector who took a while to go round, didn't he?
Yeah, it was quite a meticulous inspection that needed to be done, but all good, I think, on that front. And like you say, it was really heartwarming to turn up and find the place pretty much immaculate.
Mm.
I mean, it has its challenges and its drawbacks, the building anyway, but in terms of generally speaking, internal cleanliness and the grounds, you're always slightly like crossing your fingers and toes, aren't you,
When you
when you
turn
drive
left
up to
into
one of
that.
your sites, particularly a hotel, and particularly when you've not had time to arrive in advance of an inspection yourself, that everything's going to be great. And actually, it was pretty faultless on the outside of the property, wasn't it?
That was
No
brilliant.
complaints whatsoever. So that made things a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
But it's one of those boxes you have to tick. And then, but it also doubled up that we were able to do our biannual full buildings and
Yeah.
unit inspection. And as we did so, we were evolving the checklist and the forms that we use to make that even more
Yeah, I thought you
comprehensive.
kept disappearing off to have a sneaky little coffee, but you weren't. You were changing the form, weren't you?
Yeah, just adapting as we go, because until you actually use these inspection forms that we've created, it's difficult to sort of see how they'll work in real life. So we're getting close to having a really
Yeah.
comprehensive formula now, which is really useful. And then we have zipped back on over to Sussex, which was a good, I don't know, 2 hours from there. But I
Oh, but
think
what a
it's
beautiful drive, though.
beautiful drive. And did it not feel like coming home?
Yeah.
Like it really, given what we know we're coming back to, which is pretty basic living, we still have no real furniture. We're just the scraps that were left. We have a mattress on the floor as our sofa and a bean bag. It's pretty basic,
Yeah,
but
but I'm ahead of you on that one because whenever I've driven south over the last God knows how many years I've lived away from Sussex, as soon as I see that "Welcome to West Sussex" sign,
yeah.
I feel like I'm
I
coming
just still
home.
get a pang driving through the New Forest, but I guess we're a hell of a lot closer to that part of the world
Yeah.
as well, which is fabulous. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, please do, because it's not just the podcast episodes. We're
Check it out.
sharing lots of behind the scenes stuff. And speaking of which, where are we today? We're in the green room. Sounds like we're preparing for an interview. We're in the green room, some very fetching yellow curtains, but you can see a little bit of the outlook from Sefton Place here. Some rolling
Can we see the
woodlands.
can't see the
No,
car
no,
park.
wrong direction.
Oh,
Well, just I can actually. Yeah, I can.
yeah, I thought so.
So yeah, beautiful outlook. So we thought we'd give you a little bit of a feel for the setting and stuff like that. So lots to cover in this episode. What are we going to be talking about? We are going to be talking about the guest issues that we've been having, everything from um, dirty ovens, tea towels, smart lock batteries that are
I
on the
forgot about
blink,
that one.
super high electricity bills. So all sorts kicking off with on the guest front this week. So we'll be going through that. Obviously, we've got a Sefton Place update because things really starting to hot up on that front, which is exciting. And then a couple of other sort of property related bits and pieces that we've been working through that we thought it might be interesting to give you some insights into. So lots to cover. So should we get going?
Yep,
Okay.
let's do it. I'm gonna have a
So
quick sip of coffee.
go for it. I think let's start with the guest that we had stay recently at one of our properties in the New Forest.
Mm.
Um, so, okay, what gets me more than anything at the moment, and I'd love to know if you're a host and you're listening to this and you're experiencing something similar, we'd love to hear from you.
I
Hopefully,
guess it's just us.
yeah, maybe. But hopefully, listening to this podcast helps you feel that there are other people out there going through the same things that you are. But equally, we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, can I just mention Joanne here at this one, where
Hmm.
you saw a post saying the guest could.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the last
Oh,
episode.
did you?
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. With the guests that are allergic to the carpet,
And
where the
they were
first
pics.
where the first photo was a picture of the carpet. I mean, yeah. Yeah, and I guess we've had something similar. What gets me is how guests these days seem to go from zero to nuclear
Yeah,
in no time at all. So we had a guest turn up, and initially, they liked the property. Well, we assumed they liked raise any
didn't
other
hear.
issues like the property, but they couldn't find a tea towel. Now we're insistent that there was a tea towel, but unfortunately, there wasn't necessarily photo evidence in this case that there was a tea towel. Um, there was no tea towel. That that's the context, okay? And that very quickly we tried to direct them to the store cupboard. They insisted that they couldn't find anything in the store cupboard, which is a little bit suspect. It will be interesting actually to get feedback from the cleaners as to whether there are tea towels
Yeah.
in because I have my suspicions over this one. Um, but anyway, the fact that if that were you and I, if this is why I'm suspicious, right? If this were a genuine cause for a slight
Mm.
issue, you go, "Oh, really sorry. Could do with a tea towel. Can you just point us in the right direction?" And if it turns out you can't find one, you would kind of, "Oh, well, that's not
Bit
ideal, but
frustrated.
yeah, okay, I'll grab a tea towel." Or would you be able to drop one round or something
I'd have
like that?
used a bathroom towel, if I'm totally honest.
So, and there was then there was a slight issue with the oven not being clean enough, and which we know about, and we have scheduled for a deep oven. Obviously, we don't do a full professional oven clean after every stay. That would be
It costs too
ridiculous,
much to put
and
rubber cleaning fee.
we'd it would collapse our business. And so we do that. I would say what twice a year
Yeah,
probably is a
yeah,
full professional oven clean, like back to new. Obviously, they're cleaned after every stay, but there is always going to be an element of a build up, particularly over a busy summer. So you're catching the end of that cycle, I guess, and it's already been scheduled in for a full oven clean. But they sort of mentioned that. And again, it wasn't a case, in fact, as you'd expect, hopefully, listening to us on the podcast, as soon as we had confirmation from the guest, i.e., photos, and we were able to look at that and go, yeah, okay, that needs sorting, we offered to get the cleaners back out straight away. I mean, straight away, like that morning. But the guest denied us that opportunity, made some arrogant comment that it should be at a time of her choosing, not our choosing, when we come to put it right. When we're bending over backwards to get cleaners there, literally they could go any time that day, but they couldn't go the following day.
yeah.
So we just said, look, it needs to happen today. And they wouldn't allow us to put it right. And that's what starts to raise the alarm bells for me because they start to then, bearing in mind this is a slightly dirty oven and no tea towel, financial compensation. I want a refund. This is, this has ruined our stay. This has done, and it just seemed like, thou protest too much. It seemed a little bit like you've gone from zero to nuclear. Like you walked through that door. I'm not suggesting you're a professional, but you walked through that door fully intending to find issues,
Yeah.
or exaggerate issues, in order to potentially get a free stay.
Yeah, just frustrating.
I don't know. I'm starting to believe there are people out there that do
Oh, they
do
do.
the circuit, that do basically, they see this, this trend for like travel hacks. They see this as a legitimate travel
Okay.
hack. Is I'm going to go into an Airbnb, I'm going to find something wrong with it, I'm going to get a free stay. That's a travel hack.
Yeah, back in the day when I was working in the food industry, I used to share an office with a girl who was on the quality assurance, and she used to get all the complaint letters come in. And we were part of a group which had many different sites. We had the same letter come in for a different site saying, oh, I'd broken my tooth on a piece of bone. I had to go to the dentist. It cost me this much money. And that exact same letter came in for, didn't realize it was obviously a central
Yeah,
office. And people do that. They just have more tools to support them to do it these days with
that's
AI
it.
and everything else.
We had a guest recently who incurred a foot injury at some point.
Yeah.
We got, we got quite an alarming message about their foot had been caught in a violently closing door, and the doors of the property were not compliant because they closed so violently
Yeah.
that it's a ha hazard. And to be fair, we got photos of quite a heavily bruised foot, and obviously we were quite alarmed by this, and obviously mobilized immediately, got someone round to check out the doors, check everything was okay. Obviously, wishing the lady well, already, sort of making goodwill gestures of a credit against a future stay, just as an immediate response, if you like, pending further investigation. Um, but then again, the alarm bells started to ring as we started to investigate in it further. And in the end, I went round personally. We both went round, didn't we? And tested these doors. And I kid you not, I'm not being defensive. I promise. I kid you not. These doors close so gently that they're actually probably not compliant as fire doors in the other way, in that they don't close firmly enough because they don't actually catch on the latch, which means the door isn't closed.
Mm.
There is, I mean, I don't want to accuse a guest of lying, but there is no way in my mind that you could have done that level of injury on one of those doors. I personally
Yeah.
believe that was done in another way.
Oh, and it was strange they asked us if we had public liability insurance
Yeah,
as well.
because they want that, they know the game. They
Yeah.
they ask if there's public liability because they want to make a claim against it, and I think that they see that that doesn't affect us, and that that this is. I think they I think they probably have hurt their foot, whether they've dropped something on it, whether they've done something else somewhere on their trip, and thought, well, how can I get this covered,
Mm.
basically, um, and that's what they've done. So yeah, it's difficult. I would sort of, I would clarify all this by saying 99% of our guests are
Lovely.
lovely. We
I mean,
we
how
don't
much
hear from a
we
lot of
always
them.
quite often have that stat, don't we? Because we operate, I'm not sure how many are operating now, 70,
Yeah,
something like that. And the amount of guests that come in a day, a week, and we're peaking about
yeah.
two.
Sometimes guests just want to be heard, and I get that, and they want to feel that their issue has been heard and escalated, and I think that's where we initially thought that one was, and so we were very keen to show that we'd gone through our official process. They got them to fill out an inspection form. We obviously did our assessments at the property, but it's when they start asking about public liability insurance, you start, okay, there's a bit of a game being played here. It's likewise, we had a smart lock battery
Oh,
go down,
God.
which is on us in the sense that these batteries, to be fair, touch wood, on this particular lock type that we've got at the Madison on the internal doors, they haven't gone in 3 years, have they?
No.
And so I think in the transition of roles that we've been going through, I think that's fallen through the net in terms of who's actually keeping an eye on the remote dashboard, which we do have. So it is on us that that went down because we are able to see the battery level,
Mm.
and this battery went, and the guest was locked out of their room. But we do have a contingency plan for that. So we have and always have a backup. That's what we've learnt,
Yeah.
isn't it, from painful experience. So we directed them to our backup lock safe. There was a little bit of confusion over the code, but obviously we've got manager in training at the moment. So we were sort of trying to show her the ropes while also trying to remember the process ourselves because it's been 3 years since
Yeah.
we've had to do it.
Well, we had it and we did it. But the funny, well, not, well, it's funny now. But the funny thing was he was maintaining that code didn't work. And that was because on the YouTube video you sent him, there was obviously a generic code we use in order to demonstrate that type of lock or lockbox. And he used that rather than the
I
code.
do say on the video, use the code that was provided to you, but I am wondering now whether or not, in the way that, and I do it, in the way that people scroll through Instagram, YouTube, and they have the sound off, and there's always captions and that sort of thing. I don't know whether
Swap
they
that.
had the sound off and were just watching me type numbers in, and I would have typed in a generic code that wasn't applicable to their particular locker. There's a point actually, we probably need to caption our videos moving forwards, our YouTube videos, to make sure that people are actually listening as well
Right.
as
I was
watching
watching. Yeah.
because they may not know. Sometimes we do them talking behind the camera, don't we? They
Yeah.
may not know there's audio
Yeah.
because they have it off. So another consideration, you live and learn. But anyway, we finally got the poor chap into his room. He had an exam to prepare for, which was unfortunate. It was probably nearly an hour it took to get him into his room, which I completely empathise with, was probably very frustrating. And but having said that, we got him in. We sorted the issue. Um, and his response was, well, I want to speak to a manager.
Mm.
I want to. So, okay, fine, okay. And so I contacted him the next day. Obviously, really sorry about what happened. We're reviewing our processes to make sure that we keep an eye on the battery. Usual stuff. And I offered him a pizza. Offered him a free pizza. Said, because this didn't warrant a refund or anything like that. But obviously, it was regrettable that he had an exam to prepare for. And yeah, I said, look, what's your favorite pizza flavor? We'll get a pizza delivered to the apartment for you, free of charge, by way of an apology. And he just basically replied and said, oh, thanks for your email. Exam went well. I'll pass on the pizza.
Oh, he didn't want
Okay,
a pizza.
didn't want a pizza. Now, whether that, I don't know,
Perhaps he doesn't
because
like
if
pizza.
he was going to just leave a negative review, he would have done that anyway. Didn't need to hear from me. So I think sometimes guests just want to feel heard and feel like their issue has been maybe escalated. I don't know. I don't know. It's odd, isn't it? So yeah, it's sometimes difficult to keep a measured approach, isn't it? I think as much as anything. I'm just checking my list of what else is. Oh yeah, Setter. A property we manage in the Shetland Islands, beautiful Shetland Islands. We're going to talk a little bit more about Shetland actually, because we've not mentioned it recently,
No,
although it's
generally.
keeping us very busy. Um, but this is an interesting one for hosts. So the owner got in touch. They're on a what do you call it? Like a prepay meter,
Prepaid meter, which obviously is probably running at quite a high tariff,
quite
to
a
be
high
honest.
tariff. It is a bit of a problem in Shetland. But they do have the option to swap. But anyway, owner got in touch and said, what's going on at the property? There's like astronomical high
It was £30 a
electricity
night.
rates. It was £30 a night apparently was getting sucked up in
My immediate thought
electricity,
was they were mining crypto.
mining crypto or God knows what. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we don't really have a leg to stand on in that it's sold as all inclusive.
Yeah.
That there's no cap on the energy usage that guests can use. We obviously need to clarify whether or not they're charging an electric vehicle. And that was one of the outcomes of this is do we need to review our terms and conditions in the fact that so many more people have electric vehicles now and whether or not we allow electric
Mm.
vehicle charging because that could potentially put a real strain on electricity. But it was a case of very carefully crafting a message that didn't come across to the guest, that is. It didn't come across as
Mm.
accusatory, but more along the lines of, you know, Um, just to let you know, we've been alerted that there's really high energy consumption at the property at the moment, electricity. Just wanted to make sure that there's nothing wrong at the property.
Mm.
You're obviously our eyes and ears because you're at the property at the moment. Just wanted to check to see if you can see any reason for that, in the hope that if they are doing something they shouldn't be, that has alerted them to
And
the
I think we'll
fact
better stop that.
that we're on to them and that they will stop doing it. It will be interesting to monitor whether the usage actually drops now. They did try and offer a rationale, didn't they? That
They're charging their power tools, weren't
charging
they?
power tools, maybe. I mean, that's pretty standard consumption, though. People have phone chargers and devices on all the time,
Yeah.
don't they? I'd be surprised if that was as much of a draw on the electricity as we were seeing. But it does raise that issue of how do you confront it? It's a little bit like when we see windows open and the heating on
Oh,
full whack, isn't it?
delve in, yeah. Ours.
Yeah. I mean, how do you approach that with a guest?
Yeah.
What would you say would be the best approach in that situation? So you see the skylights open. We have
I'd say, blooming heck, I'm freezing over here. Close the windows and turn the heating down. Obviously, I wouldn't, but that's what I think.
a difficult one. There's particularly if it's a long stay guest, and you think that well, this could be racking up,
Yeah.
And we have
£30 a night. You're heavily eating into some profit there, aren't you?
we have landlord controls on
Oh,
most of our heating, but not all of it. So there are some units where we are at the whim of what the guests and the guests. Going back to what we said at the start, some guests don't care. Is the bottom line. They think I've paid for this. I don't care. I'm gonna use what I've paid for.
yeah.
And they'll whack the heating on full whack, but also want a little bit of fresh air, so they
Better open
open
the
the
window.
windows. And challenging guests on that is quite difficult, isn't it? I think from memory, do we have some internal signage now at Kegworth about that?
No.
I think we considered it for the Velux windows in the Nutcracker to say something along. I've got a feeling we do, that says something like, you can control the heating. Maybe it's in the guest guide. You can control the heating via the thermostats on your radiators and via the thermostat in the room. Please don't just open
That's
the
much
window.
easier than opening the window.
Yeah, well, it isn't, is it? That's the problem. But please don't, cool the property down by just opening the windows. But it's also it's part of the game. This is the business we're in, unfortunately, isn't
Well,
it?
that's one of the reasons why we're having what is it, aircon controlled here because we
Yeah,
can monitor that, can't we,
yeah.
very carefully?
I mean,
Because
it's
this is
costing.
a big old beast,
Yeah, it is. And it's
and
going to
it'll
cost us what? Best part of 60, 70 grand, something like
yeah.
that to install this system. It's not cheap. But this is the extent of the problem. This is, we know from experience, the level of control that guests want and that we need. So how can you get that balance of giving the guest the ability to not have to worry like they do at home, I would
Mm,
imagine, about the heating and everything else, and yeah, just enjoy yourself and set the temperature that you want, but also making sure that we have motion sensors that know when they're not in the room,
yeah,
so it's not left on full whack. That if there's a gap between stays, that the heating goes down to a minimal level. All of these bits and pieces. So I think it's going to be worth it, isn't it?
yeah, definitely.
Operationally in the long run. It's been busy though with Shetland, hasn't it?
Very, very busy. Poor Jennifer, who's only so we've got a bit of a perfect storm. We've got Lisa away, who's like our safety net for
Yeah.
bits and bobs because she's just been basically running the business for about 2 years for us on an operations side. And she's away on holiday. And we've got Jennifer, who's brilliant and is doing a really good job. But Jennifer suddenly has lots of listings to list.
Baptism of fire, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's literally doing her first listings during an influx of, I mean, what are we doing?
Well,
Four
we've got
right
three at the
now?
moment, and then we've got another three coming on very quickly.
Yeah. So we're onboarding three or four new
Four
land,
coming on
yeah,
quickly. So
four
imminent.
new landlord clients. It's going to ramp up to seven or eight, all from the Shetland Islands, which is great. It's the market that we thought it would exist for professional holiday let management in the Shetland Islands really does seem to exist, and it's proving to be very popular. But yeah, we're all hands to the pump, aren't we?
Yeah,
Getting
it's on
all
my
of those
list of
sorted.
jobs today to check the photos. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Meanwhile, Sefton Place.
Yep.
Things are hotting up.
What a lovely team.
Yeah, lovely guys have been working here this week. It's been nice to hear the bangs and the crashes and the loud music. Not quite the peaceful sanctuary that we've become accustomed to over the last few weeks, but nice noises to hear. Things are happening. In fact, they happened.
Very quickly.
Yeah, we were told to expect the rip out to take probably 2 weeks, and it's pretty much done, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got
They've rattled
tidied up
through
too.
most of it. So we're talking, I don't know how many bathroom sanitary wares have been.
17. Oh no, it's not as
No,
many as that. It's
11 is
11,
something, isn't
12,
it? Yeah,
12.
something along those lines. Um, they've all gone. We filled a humongous skip. Like we're not
Yeah,
talking a standard residential skip here, but like a massive,
massive.
great kind of construction skip has filled and some. It's now overflowing. But they've done all the legwork, which should prepare the ground nicely for when the work starts in
Yeah,
earnest,
yeah, it's good. Blank
which is great.
canvas.
Meanwhile, our planning application has gone in. We are on the lamppost. Anyone who has been through planning knows exactly what I mean. We are on the lamppost. Our planning is live on the portal for everybody to see and comment on. And it's a deep breath moment, isn't it, for
Oh,
us
I
as
feel
owners?
sick now from now until it's finished, until October the
17th of
17th.
October or whatever it is. Yeah.
It's horrible. It's like bearing your soul to the world, I think.
Yeah, I think, when you put so much heart and soul into something, and I know we haven't really got started onto the project, but we do love the building. We are super excited about our plans. We do genuinely believe, stroke, know that this is going to be a
Oh, it's just
positive
going to be
asset
lovely.
to the community. But equally, you have to prepare that not everyone's going to see it that way, and that some people will object. Um, Having said that, there's not too much to object to. It's not like we are changing anything in particular. We're not changing the outside of the property in any way, really.
Well,
Just
make it look
sprucing
nicer.
it up. Same with the grounds.
Adding some
Tide,
more trees.
tidying up the car park. Yeah, we're actually adding trees. Well, funny you mentioned trees because
Oh dear, have I done another spoiler?
no, no, nice segue. Biodiversity net gain. So it's a, it's it's an aspect of planning now that not everybody's aware of. We've come across this a few times now in recent developments where if the works that you have planned impact on the biodiversity of the land, if you like, if you've got land or you've got garden space or whatever it is. So if you are, I don't know, paving areas or taking away lawn space or green space, whatever it is seen to have an impact on biodiversity. And if you cross a certain threshold, which I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 25 meters squared of loss of
Hmm.
whether it's grass or whatever it is. Not that grass is particularly biodiversity rich, but
Don't get him started on that one.
yeah, it is a passion of mine. This, so I'm sort of I'm quite involved in this side,
Did it
but
for me, actually. I say, look at the wonderful countryside, and you just mumble green desert.
a lot of our landscape is green desert, unfortunately. Not so much around here, which is beautiful, but no, it's so anyway, that triggers a compulsory requirement to then increase biodiversity by at least 10%. And that's absolutely not an issue for us because even if we were not taking anything away, we've already got massive plans for the grounds to increase biodiversity by way more than 10%. We're planning to expand the orchard and introduce a bit of a meadow area into one of the garden spaces, just because that's a personal
More
passion of mine.
planters, more pots.
Yeah, absolutely. Herb garden, all sorts. So, absolute, not an issue. The only slight pain in the butt is that, as with anything with planning, if you trigger that compulsory requirement, then all of that has to be surveyed, documented, sent to the
Is that
sent
our
to the
foot at the end?
architect. Probably, you joke, but probably that all of that has to be documented, drawn up by architects and submitted, and yeah, just
Yada yada yada.
madness. Um, Given that we're going to go 10 times above that anyway because we want to and
Mm.
because we agree that it's super important. And we have two paths, one linking to the front door, one linking to the side access,
And that's it.
that have probably tipped us over the
Isn't it,
compulsory requirement.
even though we're adding, doesn't it like balance like a formula? because you're adding to one, taking away from the other, and then it's net
Well, you,
zero.
well,
Told
yes,
you so.
it's not. No, it can't be net zero. It's biodiversity net gain. So you have to increase by 10%. Um, but in a sense, that's exactly how it works. But they won't just take your word for it, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You can't just go, oh, yeah, don't worry, we'll plant some trees, because I'm sure everyone will say that. So there's then a formal process of resubmitting that as part of the
Okay.
application, and you have to get people to draw all of that up. They'll probably have to be ecology surveys, all of this sort of stuff. So yeah, frustrating, but make sure that you're aware of that, because that can have impact on cost and time and everything else if you're doing developments like this. The only thing that slipped through the net for us is that we didn't think we were triggering the compulsory
Yeah.
requirement because we'd forgotten about the basically the one path that leads from the car park area to the front door. But because it's long enough, it's probably going to trigger that, which is a little bit frustrating. But it is what it is. But that's all out there now, and so we're hopeful that we won't experience too many issues and we'll be able to get
Yeah.
cracking. Um, Speaking of sort of due diligence, utilities, I think we've talked about this a lot on the podcast before, how important it is to get your utilities sorted
Yeah.
as soon as possible. We've already had the Wi-Fi guy out. I mean, we
Yep.
haven't even started the rip out, and the Wi-Fi guy's been around to survey and plan the infrastructure. But the other one is drainage. Um,
Mm.
and we are in the process of getting quotes from, well, I say we are, our architects on our behalf are getting quotes from um, structural and civil engineers because we haven't had enough surveys. So we need some more surveys done. But no, it's an important one because we're off grid, and it was one of our neighbours actually that also well, not reminded us because we're already in the process of instructing the civils guy to come out and survey it, but reminded us that everybody here is off grid, and making sure that we've got the capacity and the functionality in the cesspit that we need, basically.
Yeah.
I don't think we are going to be increasing capacity, particularly compared to the historic usage
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
property, but it still needs to be surveyed. We know from experience, particularly with our leisure properties, that if we're at 60, 70% capacity, that's pretty good. We're doing pretty well, and we price accordingly to expect that level of occupancy. Although we've introduced two or three additional guest rooms, there'll be a lot less people staying on
Yes, there
site
will
than there
be.
have been historically. So hopefully not too many issues there. But again, it's another reminder just to make sure that you are don't leave your utilities to the end. We have three-phase electrics, which is great. But, on that front, we're pretty well sorted, aren't
Yeah.
we? And obviously
Yeah.
the aircon and the air source heat pumps will take care of what most people would have for
Yeah.
gas. But um, yeah, so all systems go, isn't
Very
it?
exciting. Yeah.
Lastly, this will be a quick one, but it's an interesting one. I'm not sure if anybody listening to the podcast has come across something called a flying freehold.
Mm.
We're well versed in flying freeholds. In fact, we have one at our house, in effect, don't we? The,
Yeah, we do.
the part of the apartments that goes over the alleyway. And we have another property that has a flying freehold, or at least next door's property has a flying freehold over
Ours.
a significant part of our property. And obviously, that's like a party wall agreement on steroids, isn't it? Because obviously you need to have sometimes an agreement between two neighbours about who's looking after the boundaries. Well, if their building literally goes over yours, i.e., it shares walls, floors, in this case, it kind of goes over part of our ground floor in a stagger, and that means potentially any work that they do could damage the
Yeah.
fabric of our building, and we could damage the fabric of their building. Um, so up to this point, that this particular building in question has been what's the
Empty.
word? Empty, abandoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically derelict. So we have operated with a form of indemnity insurance, effectively. But now a development company's bought that property. They plan to do some works to it. We don't exactly know what yet.
We think they're
Um,
putting homes in
yeah, we think
apartment.
they're converting to apartments, which would make sense. We looked at it ourselves for the same thing. But it now needs we need a more robust
Mm.
agreement between the two parties, and it's just. it's making sure that you go through that with a fine-tooth comb. There are
Mm,
a couple of things that I flagged with the solicitors to say, is this giving us the appropriate level of protection? Um, what is the impact if the neighbour needs to put scaffolding up, for example? We run a hospitality business. We know, as we've talked about already on this episode, guests are not always very patient and
yes.
very understanding. And if we are rattling around smashing scaffolds, and scaffolders are not the quietest people. If builders are noisy, scaffolders are like, it's like there's a concert going on, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
They have their music on full blast, they're yelling at each other. So 100% there's negative reviews coming from that, and that has an impact on us. And how does that get reflected? Does it impact on parking space was another thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But in fairness, it's also designed to protect us, that if anything we do or our guests do, or I don't know, has an impact on their property, that we're covered, and that we have rights to go around and check what's going on and this, that,
Yeah.
and the other.
Yeah.
So again, flying freeholds can complicate the purchase process. Some lenders don't like it at all,
Mm,
because of everything we've just talked about, that someone else could be knocking around with their asset. Um, but there are plenty of lenders that will do it, but you need to make sure you've got the appropriate protections in place. So we're dealing with that one. Well, our solicitor's dealing with that one, which is the beauty of having a power team, isn't
mm.
it? If I could recruit a power team member to set up designated client accounts for our management business,
Ah, you
I
would do
would
that, wouldn't you?
truly love to do that. Oh my God, what a headache. Lloyds, if you're listening, this is a disgrace. Um, how long is it? How long have I been trying to do this?
Well, uh,
Months and
yeah,
months?
months, months.
It's a requirement for us as a management company to have designated client accounts. Well, client accounts anyway.
Isn't it now we can have an undesignated
Well,
client
this is
account?
the thing. Um, So rewinding. So initially, I was talking to Lloyds. I was told that Lloyds are one of the few banks that still do client accounts. It's really not easy to find a bank that will do this, but Lloyds do. But it was a hell of a process, a huge amount of forms to fill in, everything else. And I was told that we had to have a client account for every single management client. Now that just doesn't seem right to me, because solicitors, accountants, for a fact they have one client account, because you're given that the details to pay into when you do a property
Yeah.
transaction or whatever. They'd have hundreds of
Mm.
bank accounts if they had to have one for every
Thousands.
client. Um, but anyway, that's what I was told I needed. So eventually we get round to filling in the forms for our first, because I was told by the nice chap from Lloyd's on the phone, get the first one done, make sure everything's okay, and then you can do all the others. Okay, fine. I did that, had to chase it, had to wait a few more weeks, and eventually they come back and say, "Oh, we can't process this, because you haven't been through I forget what they called the phone call I have to have, just to check that we understand everything for this entity." And I suddenly realised what had happened is that when I first started having that conversation, it was so long ago, it probably predated Shetland's days, and it was about Stay New Forest, and that's what they've got on file. And that never proceeded. We never went ahead with the client accounts, or the business for Stay New Forest. So, um, but I'm like, it's me.
Mm.
I've had the conversation. I understand it, but no, computer says no. I've got to have the conversation again. I've got to start the whole process all over again, with the only light at the end of the tunnel potentially being that this new person I spoke to says, "Oh, well, you might be able to have an undesignated client account," which is that you don't need one for every client, you just
Just
have
get
one for your
top.
clients, which is exactly what we need. So otherwise, we've got to put different bank details into every single
Mhm.
listing on every single platform. I'm hopeful that that's the case. Actually, I'm not hopeful. It would be amazing if that's the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if for some reason we don't qualify for that.
Yeah.
Again, management companies, if you have a bank that you have found deals with this in a sensible, pragmatic, and seamless way, please do let me know before any get any further, because I'd be quite happy to move my business at this stage, in order to get that sorted. You've not really been aware of this too much, have you? A lot of this has been going on in the background.
Only your, you know, uh,
Occasional tearing my hair out
yeah.
rants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That is a wrap for episode, one second, 24. Must be approaching a record here. I
Well,
can't
I was
remember.
wondering, do we need to have a season break and then we'll come back in? the end of it and we'll say, oh, Sefton Place is all done.
Yeah, that wouldn't be very fair on our listeners, would it? Our lovely loyal listeners who I'm sure are on their edge of their seats
Yeah.
waiting for updates. We will probably take a break at some stage, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, 24 episodes. You've got loads to catch up on if you're just joining the podcast right now. Equally, we are, as I've mentioned, over on YouTube. So please do we have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of lovely listeners to the podcast. We don't currently have lots and lots of subscribers to our YouTube channel, so please do head on over there, and you can see a lot more behind the scenes content than we can cover on the podcast. And it would be great just
Yeah.
to show you some of the behind the scenes of what's actually happening. But that's us for this episode. So until next time, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yeah. Cheery
Take
bye.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye. Cheery bye.
Yeah, cheery bye. I don't know where that came from.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.